Today we're going to discuss how Jesus stops the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Now the four horsemen of the apocalypse are confusing to many people when they read in the Revelation. Later in this study we will see how Jesus stops all four of these horsemen dead in their tracks and brings about a whole new world. Jesus introduces these four horsemen in Revelation 6:1. Now I saw when the Lamb, or Jesus, opened one of the seals, and I looked, and behold, a white horse, first of the four horse, white horse. And he who sat on it had a bow. We've got to remember that. This rider has a bow, and a crown was given to him, just one crown, and he went out conquering and to conquer. Okay, that's kind of vague. Is he a military guy? What is all that about? We'll come back to that. Verse 3, and he opened the second seal, and another horse, a fiery red horse this time, second horse. And it was granted to him, to the one who sat on him, to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. So the fiery red horse, much death, people killing each other. Now most scholars consider this the red horse of war, right? So at least the second seal, the second horse, we're pretty sure this is all about war, right? Verse 5, and he opened the third seal, and so he looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on him had a pair of scales in his hands. This black horse is understood to represent famine, which often comes after devastation of war. Verse 7, when he opened the fourth seal, I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades, the grave, followed him. Power was given over them, over a fourth of the earth, to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death. So these horses are killing people. People are dying of hunger. There's massive death. And that's been happening for a long time. Now this Death and Hades horse explains what happens to mankind while these four horsemen are riding. Now Jesus had already described the future of the world when he spoke in Matthew 24:6. A lot of people are familiar with Matthew 24. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars, okay? Now he's talking about the second horse, the horse of war, right? The fiery red horse. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end of the age is not quite yet. These things will be happening. Verse 7, for nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be, here we go, famines and pestilences and earthquakes in various places, resulting in much death. Right, so the four horses ride, and we're going to have a period of much death. So Jesus outlines the horses of war and famine and death in Matthew 24:7. But let's go back and ask, what about the first horse? What are we talking about there? Jesus gave details of the white horse, but they're not really obvious to the casual reader. Revelation 6:2, I looked, and behold, a white horse, and he who had sat on him had a bow. Now many people read that and they think this horse represents Jesus Christ because he's on a white horse, right? And we see the white horse description of Jesus in Revelation 19:11. Behold, a white horse, and he who sat on him was called Faithful and True. Okay, who are we talking about? Jesus. And in righteousness he judges and makes war. This is the war, Battle of Armageddon, the war to end all wars. This white horse rider is obviously Jesus Christ, and so people go back to the first horse, the first seal, and they say, well, it must mean Jesus, right? No, we got to be careful. Revelation 19:12, his eyes were a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, not just one crown like the white horse rider has given one crown and had a bow. Verse 15, and out of his mouth goes a sharp-edged sword, and the rest were killed with the sword, and proceeded out of his mouth who sat on the horse, which is a description of Jesus destroying the armies of the 666 beast power in the last 3.5 years of man's age, and when that comes to an end, it'll be the Battle of Armageddon, and Jesus will destroy all those soldiers. So the white horse rider with the bow is different from Jesus with the sword. Different how? Now we look more closely at the first of the four horsemen, asking Jesus, what is this picturing? Revelation 6:2, seal number 1. And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. Okay, I looked that up in the Greek, and it could have read, to be victorious in getting the victory. Or you could just say, be successful, right? Okay, so then we ask, well, successful at what? Before Jesus mentions wars and rumors of wars, he describes the most important issue of deceit. They asked him in Matthew 24, what's going to be the end of the age and all these things? Jesus answered in verse 4, first thing he said, take heed that no one deceives you, because there's going to be great deceit. For many, verse 5, will come in my name, in the name of Jesus, saying that I am the Christ, saying that Jesus is the Christ, and those people will deceive many. Wait, they've got the truth. It is Jesus. Jesus is the Christ. But they use Christ's name to deceive people. The first horseman imitates Christ and is successful at deceiving many people. And so goes out conquering and to conquer, or be successful at deceiving many people. So the white horse pictures false Christian teachings which deceive the many, thus gaining the victory and success. After 10 more verses, Jesus repeats the warning in Matthew 24, verse 11. Then many false prophets teaching false teachings will arise, and they will deceive many. Christ keeps saying the many are going to be deceived. And that's what this white horse is all about. And again, after another 22 verses, right, we come to verse 24 of Matthew 24. He says again, re-emphasizing this deceit factor, many false Christs and false prophets will arise and show great signs, wonders, miracles, to deceive many. So the white horse is false Christian teachings. The red horse is war and fighting and killing people. The black horse is famine, which is a result of you wipe out a territory, there's no more farming, there's no more food, the people are in dire straits, people die of famine. And the pale horse is death and the grave. People end up dead and being buried. Jesus was asked about the future in Mark 13:4. Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign, and when will these things be fulfilled? Right? Matthew gives us a greater detail in Matthew 24 verse 3. Says, tell us when these things will be, and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age. So they want, they're asking a long description, they're asking 3 big questions, and Jesus gives them all of Matthew 24 and all of Matthew 25 to answer those 3 questions. Here the disciples are asking the 3 things: when will it happen? When, how long into the future is this going to be? And what will be the sign of your coming? How will we see and know this is it? This is the coming of Christ. And what will be the sign of the end of the age of man, because Christ comes back to earth to become King of Kings and Lord of Lords, President of planet Earth, and to rule the earth for 1,000 years. Okay, we go back to the record in Mark 13:5. Jesus began to say, take heed that no one deceives you. Right, it's repeated there. For many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and deceive many. The white horse of deceit. But when you hear of wars and rumors of wars, so verse 6 there was the white horse, deceit. The verse 7 is wars and rumors of wars. Don't be troubled, for such things must happen, but the end is not yet. Verse 8, for nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be earthquakes in various places, and there will be famines and troubles, and these are the beginning of sorrows. So Jesus was saying there will be wars, plural, and there will be earthquakes, plural, and rumors of wars, plural, and famines, plural. He's saying it's not just going to be one of each. It's going to be a whole series of these things. By using Matthew 24 and the four horsemen, Jesus is saying there will be many wars, many famines, many dead people in the 2,000 years between his departure when he went up to heaven and the end of the age of the man, and he takes over ruling planet Earth. So we have this sign, wars for a long span of time, right? Because they're going to be many wars and many dead people. He's describing the events, the major events of the 2,000 years from when he left to when he comes back. Jesus also tells us about the long span of time between his death and the end of the age by using the term into a far country. It's like we can read over it really quick. Oh, yeah, he went into a far country. He went into a far country. He went into a far. In those days, right, he couldn't fly. He couldn't fly to England in 9 hours and then get off the plane, get another plane and fly back in 9 hours, right? In those days, if you went to a far country, it took you a long time on a horse or a donkey or walking to get to the far country. And then if you're coming back from the far country, it takes you a long time. So he's giving us a hint, he's giving us a clue. He's going to be gone for a long time. And he couldn't really tell the disciples, right? I'm going to be gone for 2,000 years. Carry on while I'm gone, right? So it would have been discouraging. So he didn't tell them exactly. He just gave them clues. It's going to be a long time, right? And then they're all dead pretty much except John. By the time John writes the seals and the four horsemen, and that's giving us a clue and a picture of a 2,000 years worth of major activity. Matthew 25 verse 14, the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country who is called by his servants, and he delivers goods to them. Now here Jesus is specifically refers to himself by showing his rewards. In Matthew 25:21, his Lord said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of the Lord." So it's Jesus talking about him traveling to a far country. Jesus gives many clues to the fact that he will be gone for a long, long time. 2,000 years is a long, long time for any of us, right? Into a far country. Mark 13:34. It's like man going into a far country who gave authority to his servants and commanded the doorkeeper to watch, because they wouldn't know when he gets back from the far country, and so just keep looking for him to come over the hill, right? In Luke 19:12, again, therefore he said, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom. And when Jesus comes back, he's in charge of the kingdom. In Luke 20, verse 9, a certain man planted a vineyard, different circumstance, and leased it to vine dressers, and went into a far country, and here it is in black and white, for a long time. Right? Now people were a little bit confused about his parables, but now that we can look back on it and we look at the four horsemen, we can see he is describing the 2,000 years he's been gone. He's not here now, but he's coming. The four horsemen have been riding since Jesus went to heaven for about 2,000 years. Now while these four horsemen keep riding, there will be more war and death and horror. And my question for Jesus is, when do they stop riding? Right? When we, just like his disciples, want to know, when is this war and killing and famines and death, when is it going to stop? How far into the future are we talking about? Are we getting close, right? And many prophecies show that we are getting close. Jesus has the answer for us in Revelation 17:14. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. The last final war for mankind is the battle of Armageddon. People People have taken the name and given it various and sundry meanings. Some think it means the end of humans. It means the destruction of planet Earth. No, it means the battle that destroys the beast power's army and stops all wars and begins the peace on earth. And here Jesus tells us, right, that he defeats the soldiers of the 666 beast empire in this final war. He calls it the third woe, or also the trumpet number 7. So we read in Revelation 11:14, the second woe is past. Behold, the third woe is coming quickly. Verse 15, and then the seventh angel sounded, the seventh trumpet. And before the seventh trumpet, third woe war, humans will continually be killing each other. They're doing it today in Ukraine and Russia and Ukraine war and in other places around the earth. And in what may be the most horrible human war ever is described by the sixth trumpet, right, which is just before Christ shows up in the sky. In Revelation 9:13, the sixth angel sounded, the sixth trumpet that is, and the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. Now, we could question what John wrote, and we could say, well, John did you count them? Did you count 200 million so that you could write it down? And he anticipated this, and so the next few words in that same verse says, I heard the number of them. So somebody was whispering in his ear, right, write 200 million, because that's how many, 200 million. I'm telling you, you don't have to count them. Verse 17, thus I saw the horses in vision, and they that sat on them had breastplates of fiery red. Okay, this is a description of the 200 million man army that kills a third of mankind. Verse 18, by these three plagues, a third of mankind was killed. Right? So by the time we get to the sixth trumpet, whatever the population of planet Earth is, the 200 million man army is going to kill off in war a third of what that population is at that time, by fire and by smoke and by brimstone, which came out of their mouths. This war will be the last war of humans killing humans. The next war after this is Jesus, spirit being, aliens from another planet, if you want, right? Aliens from another universe, really, right? So the following war, the Battle of Armageddon, is Jesus killing humans, but this trumpet number 6 is the last great war where humans are killing humans. The four horsemen will still be riding, but only for a little while longer until Jesus shows up in the sky. The great good news for humans is that Jesus will stop the four horsemen dead in their tracks at the Battle of Armageddon. In fact, one of the descriptions Jesus gives to show what it's like at the end of the Battle of Armageddon, he just says, it is done. Like, it's over. You know, all the enemies of Christ are now dead. Revelation 11:14, the second woe is past, the third woe is coming quickly. Seventh angel, seventh trumpet poured out, and voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ. Verse 18, and the nations were angry, and your wrath has come, and you should reward your servants and destroy those who destroy the earth. And all of this war, and especially there'll be nuclear war, will be very, very destructive to planet Earth and life on planet Earth. And Jesus is going to say, stop. We're stopping this destruction, and we're going to build a beautiful, peaceful, happy planet Earth for humans to live on for 1,000 years. The armies of the 666 beast will attack Jesus, and he will destroy all those armies, all those enemy soldiers. Jesus and his Father give three great descriptions of how Jesus wins the Battle of Armageddon. They're in all of chapter 39 of Ezekiel. You might want to write this down. Chapter 39 of Ezekiel, fabulous description of the Battle of Armageddon, blow by blow, piece by piece, God's thinking all the way through. Zechariah 14. Now, it's just a thumbnail sketch. It's short, but it's powerful. It sort of hits the major points really quickly, and you get a synopsis of the Battle of Armageddon, and then Revelation chapter 19, where it spends quite a bit of time on it. Now, if you want to know what this battle looks like, Battle of Armageddon, people say Armageddon. So these three places, you need to read and study those three chapters. So Jesus then stops the red war horse at the Battle of Armageddon, because after the Battle of Armageddon is over, there will be no more war. Jesus, a spirit being, will be in charge of planet Earth, won't allow there to be armies, won't allow there to be this army to go to battle with that army. He'll just stop it because he has super spiritual power. When Jesus appears in the sky, he is ready to defeat the armies of the 666 beast power, Revelation 19:20. The beast was captured, and with him the false prophet. These two were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. Verse 21, and the rest, meaning the beast power's armies, were killed with the sword. And I saw an angel, and he laid hold of the dragon and the Satan, the devil, and bound him for 1,000 years. So Satan gets bound, captured, put in handcuffs, and verse 3, set a seal on him that he should deceive the nations no more till 1,000 years were finished. So no more white horse of deception for a long, long period of time, while Jesus is helping people learn how to live at peace. When the battle is over, there will be no more wars. That's why he says, it is done. The warring and killing of humans is finished. Isaiah 2, verse 4, he shall judge between the nations and shall rebuke the people and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, right? Swords, weapons of killing and fighting, into plowshares, weapons are, not weapons, but farming equipment to grow food. So there won't be famines, right? And their spears, right? Spears for stabbing and throwing and killing people, into pruning hooks. Again, agricultural tools for making more food. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. So there'll be no more boot camps for new soldiers to learn how to go out and kill people on the battlefield. In Micah, Jesus shows how peaceful life will be when there are no more wars, when the red horse has stopped its 2,000-year ride. Micah 4, verse 3, neither shall they learn war any more, but everyone shall sit under his vine and under his fig tree. They're going to be growing figs, they're going to be growing vines, they're going to be growing vegetables, and no one shall make them afraid. How fearful are the people in Ukraine. How fearful are the people that Putin will take Ukraine and then take Poland and then take more and more of Europe. For the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken it. God is allowing human wars to continue for now, to show mankind that they need God's help to learn to live at peace. Many humans continue to ask, what will be the near future? What will the near future look like? What will it be like? God's answer is, there's going to be wars and famine and much death, like the four horsemen are going to riding and deceiving and killing until after Jesus wins the Battle of Armageddon, and then he begins ruling all nations in total peace with no war whatsoever. Revelation 15:4, who shall not fear, O Lord, or glorify your name, for all nations shall come and worship before you. Faithful servants of Jesus will have power to rule over the nations. Revelation 2:26, he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him will I give power over the nations, so that they don't stray back into boot camp activity and war and killing. God's servants will rule over the nations for peace and not for war. For now, we can expect wars continue until Jesus stops the red horse at the Battle of Armageddon.